All right, I want you to say something with me out loud right now. No. Again, louder. No. One more time like you mean it. No. Notice what's happening in your body. That tightness, that voice saying you're being rude just by speaking the word no. That's what we're working with today. Welcome to Guided. I'm Brenda Bertrand, and today we're learning one of the most important words in discernment, no. Because if you can't say no, your yes means nothing. So why does no feel so dangerous? Because we've been taught that good people say yes. Good people are helpful, they're accommodating, they're flexible. Good people don't disappoint others, they don't cause conflict, they don't make waves. And if we're women, if we're people of color, if we've been taught our value comes from being useful, we've also learned that no gets us labeled. Label as the selfish one or the difficult one or not a team player. So sometimes we say yes when we mean no, when our bodies are screaming no, when we have no capacity left. We say yes because that's what we've been conditioned to do. But here's what happens when we can't say no. Our lives stop being ours. We end up living everyone else's agenda, carrying everyone else's needs, depleting ourselves to keep everyone else comfortable. And we call that service, we call that faithfulness. Some of us even call that love, but it's not. Friend, it's self-abandonment. God doesn't need our self-abandonment. God wants our wholeness, which means learning to say no even when it's uncomfortable, even when people don't like it, even when we've been taught that no makes us bad. And here's the truth. Saying no isn't about being selfish. It's about protecting our yes. We have limited time. We have limited energy. We have limited capacity. For crying out loud, we have limited time on this planet. And every time we say yes to something that's not ours, we're saying no to something that is. When you say yes to that committee we don't want to be on, we're saying no to rest, to the thing God is actually calling us toward. You say yes to that relationship that depletes us, we're saying no to our own peace, our own growth, and to attracting that loving, mutual relationship that is ours. When we say yes out of guilt or obligation, we're saying no to our own discernment. We're saying no to our own knowing. So no isn't negative. No is protective. No creates space for what matters. No honors our limits. No keeps us aligned with what's actually ours. And learning to say it, that's not selfish. Friend, that's sacred. So let's practice together right now. I'm going to give you some scenarios and you're going to say no out loud. Even if it feels awkward, I know this feels a little weird, even if you feel ridiculous, do it anyway. You ready? All right. Someone asks you to volunteer for something you don't have the capacity for. You can say, no, I'm not available for that. All right, good. So let's try that. No, I'm not available. Someone asks if you're free this weekend when you desperately need rest. No, I have other plans. No explanation, no apology, just no, I have other plans. Now, even if those plans are to stay in your pajamas until noon and to be under the covers watching your favorite Netflix show, the answer is still no. I have other plans. No explanation, no apology. Someone pressures you to do something that doesn't feel right? No, that doesn't work for me. Someone's having a conversation that's going sideways that you're not ready for, you don't have the capacity for, or you don't feel is in your best interest. It's like, no, I want to have this conversation, but not this way. Notice how your body feels. Jaw clenching, shoulders tensing, stomach dropping. That's the discomfort of boundary setting when you haven't practiced it. Okay, one more. Someone asks you why you can't do something and they want an explanation. You can say, I'm not able to, and thank you for understanding. Or I'm not interested, And thanks for thinking of me. Listen, you don't owe anyone a dissertation. I'm not able to, I'm not interested, I'm not available are complete sentences. How did that feel? Okay, if it felt awful, if it felt rude, if it felt mean, good. That means you're doing it right. And the discomfort means you're breaking a pattern. And breaking a pattern feels terrible before it feels free. Let me name 3 lies we've been told about saying no. Lie number 1. If I say no, people will think I'm selfish. Okay, now the truth is, people who are used to us saying yes will be uncomfortable when we start saying no. And that's their problem. It's not yours. We're not responsible for managing other people's disappointment. We're responsible for stewarding our own lives. Lie number 2. Good spiritual people don't say no. The truth is, Jesus said no all the time. He said no to demands on his time. He withdrew to pray when people wanted more miracles. He said no to his own family when they tried to pull him away from his ministry. He protected his yes by saying no to what wasn't his. And here's why that matters theologically. God doesn't need your depletion. God doesn't need my depletion. God doesn't need us running on empty, resentful, and burnt out, sacrificing ourselves on the altar of ministry. God invites us into co-creation, into partnership, into collaboration. And partnership requires whole people, not one person sacrificing themselves into dust. Our limits aren't a failure of our faith, they're part of our design. And saying no helps you rest and be restored so you can say yes to what is yours, what God's calling you to co-create. Line number 3, if I say no, I'll lose the relationship. Okay, the truth is, friend, if someone can't handle our boundaries, they weren't ever relating to us. There was never mutuality. They were using us, okay? Real relationships can handle no. Real love doesn't require our depletion. And here's the lie under all the lies I just mentioned. We need to explain why we're saying no. And that's the greatest lie. No is a complete sentence. We don't owe anyone a justification, a reason, an excuse. We don't need to lie to say no. And I know that a lot of people do that. A lot of women that I accompany, they've learned to kind of lie so that their no can feel softer to the person they're giving it to. We don't need to prove our no is legitimate. No, I'm not able to. No, I'm not interested. No, I'm not available. No, thank you. Never, not in this lifetime, all of that. It's enough. Every time we over explain our no, we're asking someone else for permission and we're apologizing for having limits. And we're going to stop that. We're allowed to have limits. We're allowed to say no without explanation. And when we learn to say no, 3 things shift. First, our yes starts meaning something. Like when we say yes, people know we mean it because we're not saying yes out of obligation and it is not our default answer. We're saying yes because it's actually ours. Second, we stop resenting people. Let's be honest. When we're doing things out of obligation, things we don't want to do, we actually blame people for asking and then we blame them when we're tired. We said yes when we meant no, and that's on us. But when we start saying no, the resentment stops because we're only doing what we actually want to, what we actually feel called to. And third, we start trusting ourselves. Every time we say no when we mean no, we're telling our bodies, our spirits, our minds, I'm listening. I trust you. My boundaries matter. And guess what? Your body will start to relax. Your nervous system will start to settle because we're finally protecting ourselves instead of abandoning ourselves. That's what no does. It brings us home to ourselves, to our knowing, to our lives. So, what does this have to do with discernment? I am so glad you asked. It has everything to do with discernment. It is hard to discern God's voice if we're too busy doing everything everyone else wants us to do or what we think we should do. It's hard to discern what's ours if we're carrying everyone else's assignment. We can't follow where God is leading if we said yes to 17 other directions. So learning to say no is a practice. It is a spiritual practice. And it is not outside of your capacity. It may be outside of our practice, right? If we haven't practiced saying no, the sacredness of the no, then it can feel uncomfortable. And all that means is you're out of practice. And that's how we develop this muscle. It's how we create space to listen, how we protect our yes, how we stay aligned with what's actually ours. And here's what I've learned. The more comfortable we get with no, the clearer our discernment becomes. Because we're not clouded by obligation anymore. We're not people pleasing. We're not afraid of disappointing others. We're just listening to God, to our bodies, to our souls, to our knowing. And we're responding with the truth, whether that be a sacred yes or a sacred no. And friend, that's power. That's freedom. That's what it looks like to be guided. So this week, I'm going to invite you to say no to something. Just one thing, something you would normally say yes to out of obligation or guilt or fear or shoulds, whether it's an invitation you don't want or a request you don't have capacity for or a commitment you've been dragging your feet on. Just say no without over-explaining, without apologizing. No, I'm not able to, or no, I'm not available, or no, thanks for thinking of me. And then notice what happens. Notice how your body feels. Notice the discomfort and notice the freedom under the discomfort. Because the first no is the hardest. And every no after that gets a little easier. Until one day you realize you're not afraid of disappointing people anymore. And you're unwilling to abandon yourself anymore. You're just living your life, saying yes to what's yours and saying no to what's not. All right, so let's practice one more time before we go. Say it with me. No. That word is power. That word is protection. That word is sacred. And when we learn to say it, when we stop apologizing for having limits, we discover something else. Our lives start to feel like ours again. Our time, our energy, our capacity, not everyone else's. And that's when we can finally hear what God is saying, because we're not drowning in everyone else's noise anymore. We're home in our own lives, guided by our own knowing. Before we close, let's breathe together. I'm here with you in the boundary setting, in the discomfort, in the freedom. And here's my blessing. May we learn the sacred no. May we protect our yes by honoring our limits. May we discover that boundaries aren't walls. They're the foundation of freedom. You are guided, you are held, you are home. Thank you for listening to Guided. If you want to practice saying no with others who are also learning, join me over at brendabertrand.com. Link in the show notes. Take care of yourself and talk soon.